Hey guys, welcome to the Hollywood Critics Association Bel-Air Aftershow podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Fowler, and I'm joined by my amazing co-host, John Rocha. Hey, John.
Hey, Nikki, how are you? How are
I'm
things?
good.
Yeah.
I'm good. Thank you. So it's exciting to have you back to discuss Bel-Air on Peacock episode 6, Love and Go On.
Yeah.
I just want to give a spoiler alert that we are going to be discussing episodes 1 through 6. So if you have not seen the episodes on Peacock, rewind out of this video, watch the episodes, and then head back over to our after show and get all the steamy details and spoilers for all of the episodes. Make sure to like and subscribe, and also leave us comments, leave us some feedback on how you're enjoying the show on Bel-Air, as well as how you're enjoying our reviews.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to
Yeah.
be clear, we are doing episode 6 on this, but we have done episodes 1 through 6. We're going to be referencing some of the things in previous episodes. And so just to make sure people who are watching, maybe catching us for the first time, understand we're reviewing 6, but going through the other episodes as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely. So we're going to jump into a little recap on how we got to episode 6 really briefly. We ended episode 5 with Hillary and Aunt Viv having a positive mother-daughter moment, with Viv expressing how proud she was of her for getting into the influencer house. So ended with a little bit of love. And Will also has a sentimental moment with his mom, Vi, on him wanting to stay in Bel-Air. Vi and Viv have a moment on FaceTime on what they think is best for Will. Jazz and Hillary were having a possible love connection while she helped him go viral with his record store on social media. Will and Carlton were surprisingly getting along while canvassing for voters for Phil, until Carlton finds out that his dad broke the law to help Will get out of Philly. Carlton wasted no time blackmailing Will for a path to some alone time with Lisa, planning her mom's memorial. Aunt Viv is trying to help Phil connect with voters to say what he really feels during his run for district attorney, and he does. He states police reform is needed. So Phil is getting called out by the commissioner and also Lisa's dad, Fred, who's the chief of police. Ashley comes out and divulged a crush on a female friend, Lucia, and had Hillary's total support. Rashad is now dead, as we all know, and Will believes Jeffrey had something to do with it. Will decides to stay in Philly, and that causes Trey to storm off, heading back home, and calling Will a total sellout to his community for not returning with him. And we're going to just jump into episode 6 recap. Aunt Viv's caterer cancels the charity memorial event she's holding for Lisa's mom, Gail, after years of losing her to lupus. She's getting some help from Hillary, where we see her shining once again with her cooking skills, but getting frustrated with the antics of the influencer house. Hillary is feeling the pressure of social media and being an influencer, and heats up her content to stay relevant with Tyler, her house manager, who is on her heels. Will is getting dragged on social media as Trey is back home in Philly, calling him a snake for not wanting to return home and choosing to stay in Bel-Air for all his new opportunities with the Banks, his extended family. Aunt Viv is propositioned by steamy art gallery owner Reed on putting her work back out there, and before you can blink a Bel-Air eye, Uncle Phil is making sure his interests in Viv are just professional. We find out Lisa's father, Fred, is now running against Phil for DA, which he tried to hide, and Phil has lost the endorsement at the Times. Jeffrey is still Uncle Phil's 007 go-to man on everything and everyone. If you're plotting anything around the Banks family, Jeffrey will definitely get to the bottom of it. Aunt Viv shuts down Angela, Fred's new pregnant wife, and calls her out for surprisingly bragging about a Palm Springs getaway to Will of all people, which Viv reveals happened prior to Gail passing away. Lisa's having major anxiety, feeling like her mom's legacy is being erased with Angela, and it doesn't help that she has Carlton and Will sparring for her attention. And sadly, Carlton is losing it once again. He's using drugs, and he just really can't handle the situation. So, John, what were your thoughts on this episode?
Whew, there was a lot. Just when you think you've got enough drama in one episode, the next episode comes on and goes, oh, get ready. And thank God these are a week apart, because it gives you time to really savor what they're doing with these storylines. So when we jump back in, Viv leading this thing, Cassandra's really like in charge in this episode, trying to put this benefit up, letting this, they're slowly letting her South Philly part come out more and more as the season goes on in certain situations. So it was great to see her do that. We had the Carlton and Will that thing that people have been waiting for all season, that moment where possible friendship, a possible break in the animosity leads to the friendship here. And we see some great acting performances there as well with the breakdown with Carlton, just incredible work there. And then seeing Hillary kind of frustrated with the influencer house. This is an interesting statement they're making here with her, because it's like saying, well, are we indicting influencers? Are we stereotyping influencers at the expense of this character? And of course, we see then what it leads to later on with her kind of, is she going to use, I don't know. There was a moment there with her little sister. I thought she was maybe going to use her for the TikTok. I was concerned there for a moment, and then it didn't become that. And she kind of weighs in and, it makes a decision to wear the sexier clothes and be more sexy with her approach. Is that something that she's owning, or is that something that she feels pressured to do? So I like that we're even opening the door to that. And then, of course, what we get with Uncle Phil and the chief of police there going at each other a little bit, and then finding out that he's going behind his back to run for office. And so I have a couple of quibbles, which we'll get to as we talk, but I really enjoyed this episode, and just everybody involved in it doing fantastic work.
Yeah, definitely. The acting is still really amazing. And, I love that they're, tackling anxiety, mental health. Like this is just woven through the entire series. And, even with Will's character, in this beginning of this episode, you see him breaking art. He's frustrated. It's showing his growing pains, just his frustration and not being able to deal with Lisa and Carlton and that whole triangle, which we'll get to. But really love just every character, including Ashley and, Hillary with this influencer house. So it's just, I love the mental health aspect of it all. And we learn a little bit. We learn a little bit of information on Hillary and Ashley in the kitchen, that kitchen scene where Hillary's trying to advise Ashley on what could be the problem, this little drama between Vi and Vivian, and it has something to do with Will, and the dad shuts that down right away. So what were your thoughts on that scene? You were predicting a little bit about this throughout all of our
we're gonna get it. I mean, they've been hinting at it for so many episodes, and I'm like sitting there going, okay, we're about to get it. No, Phil shuts it down. So I'm like, all right, God, they're keeping us hooked on this until they eventually drop the hammer, which will probably be episode 8 or 9. Probably they'll drop the hammer of what happened between them. But I like that the family knows, at least, Hillary knows. So Hillary knows the drama, and she's about to pass the family secret on here. So we are going to get it at some point. But I like that we got a little bit more of that. Certainly, Phil. I mean, this show is so good in the fact that Will has shown up, and like we see in movies, like we see in other TV shows, when you get that outside character coming in, it kind of exposes or explodes out or causes ripples throughout that causes these kind of long dormant cracks to pop back up again. And certainly Will here apparently is loved by everybody, including Ashley's friends, and Lisa. And so Will has come in and he's just kind of exploded this situation and exposed a lot of things. So just very, very interesting to see this all happening now. And I wonder how they're going to put it all together by the time we get to the end of season 1, but I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I love that thought too of him being, this explosive character that's just has things firing off, all are centered around him. You see that in families, you see that in friend groups. There may be that one person that just changes the dynamic of everything and brings out people's insecurities and all of that. So really, really cool seeing that. So, Hillary and this influencer house, she's having a little bit of a tough time. We saw her trying to create content, and she's realizing that everything that's free isn't always perfect. So just like you mentioned, she started to kind of just try to decide whether she was going to heat up her content to stay relevant. Tyler's on her heels. And I love that it talks about the pressures of content creation and it being an influencer in social media, and that pressure, there are influencers that have to take time out for their mental health, and they're very public about that. So she's just getting it early on. So, not only does she have to create this content on time to stay relevant, but the inside house distractions. You've got pranksters going crazy, which must be so frustrating. She seems to be a wants to be perfect with what she does.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of that whole?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a very, very low level influencer, so I don't have to deal with that nonsense. I'm not big enough to do it, so I get it. Like that kind of stuff, I watch from the outside. And go, man, I can't even imagine. And them giving us just a small window into what that pressure is like. Kylo is constantly calling her while she's trying to help her mom. So she can't even take an afternoon to go help her mom in a situation because there's this pressure to create this content, right? And I think it's Jared and Nathan are the two guys who play the pranksters, or the characters that are playing the pranksters. Here they come in, they've got a great content, so they're going to use whoever they need to use in whatever situation to create their content. So it's definitely another level of existence, and you go, oh wow, how do they have so many followers? Like there's the constant pressure every day to create content, and what you're doing is generating criticism as well as praise. So many, as you said, so many influencers have to take that mental health break. And this whole episode really dealt with the idea of criticism versus praise, who you should be listening to, who you shouldn't be listening to, developing a thick skin, not necessarily going, screw all them. It's more a matter of, hey, this is the game. If you can't deal with this, you got to get ready to deal with this. This is life. Phil talks about it himself when he's talking to Will about when Will's getting all those negative comments that he's reading on social media. And here's the same thing with Hillary here, feeling the pressure to do these things. And then the reactions and Kylo saying, hey, if you repeat the same thing over again, people are not going to be into you. And this idea of losing 3% of your influencers. So it's a high stakes game. Once you get to that level, it's a high stakes game, and there's a whole nother level of pressure on you. And I like that the show is giving you a window into that rather than just 100% treating it as a one-dimensional thing you can make fun of,
Yeah. And, she's saying, oh, I'll just do a cooking tutorial based on what I'm actually doing, which seemed accurate. But, that's not good enough. That's boring. The algorithm doesn't like that. You're not only dealing with your manager, but you've got to fight the algorithms on Facebook and Instagram. And then also I noticed, Vivian's friends were putting pressure on Hillary too. Like, the pool house is always there. And that happens. You have adults that are actually not even seeing the damage that they could be doing to a young person with their criticism. So I love that they added that in because that happens all the time.
It's a new level of pressure nowadays for a lot of people, young people coming up for sure. And they're showing you all those different pressures, whether well-intentioned or not,
Yeah. And then there's the huge debate on her using this, sex appeal at the end, to sell what she's doing. And, there's a line between, female empowerment, which many people are embracing. You have, Meg Thee Stallion and many other, Cardi B, many people, they're entertainers and this is what they do. And they'll say, this is not for your children, which people should be raising their children and monitoring that, celebrities cannot raise other people's children. You have to dictate that. It takes a lot of work. So these are just the conversations that are being had. So what are your thoughts? I mean, just want to go into that, like as far as using sex to sell.
I know I'm a man, so I'm walking into a minefield with this. I don't know what it's like to be a woman in this business, and I've seen some of the comments that the women endure. That was one of my first big wake-up calls when I first got into this business of being on camera and seeing what pressures and what abuse women suffer and what's expected of them. And then how some women or some influencers or some people have gone the route of putting a lot of bikini pictures up. And then when they get criticized, going, hey, why are you criticizing me? I'm embracing my strength. So I have so many, like, I'm on so many thoughts on this because my initial thoughts are I would never do that, but I'm a man. So it's a different situation. Well, maybe if I was in fantastic shape, I'd take my shirt off all the time. I don't know. But the idea of needing to do that, most of the fan base that watches this kind of stuff, usually entertainment based, is mostly male. So it's like, well, what are you appealing to here? What are the dangers of it all? But I sense from her, this is a decision that come from a place of pressure, because there was nothing here throughout the episode, Nikki, where we saw that she wanted to do this, that she was struggling with wanting to do this, and with identifying with it as a symbolism of power. We saw it coming from Kylo, this pressure that she had to post something that wasn't boring. So the way they framed it in the episode, it doesn't feel like an empowering moment. It feels like a pressured moment. And in that sense, I think there are some women who are in influencer sections or whatever it is, punditry, and I've seen some female film reviewers taking pictures of themselves in bikinis and putting on Instagram, all those kinds of things, sexy pictures and what have you, and more power to them. It's if they're doing it for the right reasons, great. If they're doing it because feel pressured, that seems like a slippery slope that could lead, as you said, to some bad mental health places if you're not really firm on it. So
yeah, definitely. I've even seen, some activists, I had to do a double take. I'm like, oh, okay. And no judgment, just kind of observing, that just like you said, is this pressure or is this just people living their best life? And who are we to, say anything?
Exactly. You got a right to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was interesting that she felt the need to do this so early on. Like this is like some of the first content she's creating for the house, and she's already, kind of stripping down. So that was interesting.
Wait till Viv sees it. Ooh,
that too. That's the first thought after they're going dark on the episode. It's like, all right, wait till her dad.
Oh yeah, her dad too, right? Phil, yeah, Phil. Like
So
yeah.
Yeah, so we have a few moments with Uncle Phil and Jeffrey, and Jeffrey's still kind of this handler, and there's lots of whispering going on, and he seems to be taking care of things behind the scenes. With Uncle Phil losing the Times as an endorsement, and so what were your thoughts on Jeffrey didn't have a big part to play in this episode, but he's still there. He's still in the background. We still don't know if he had something to do with Rashad. There's this mystery behind him.
Yeah. They've been giving him some really great moments to play, some really interesting character choices for him as he's moving. Even when Phil gives him the kind of orders there near about the middle of the episode, he just struts on off, going to do his thing. So there's a lot of power with Jeffrey. There's not a speed. There's not a need to do it quickly. So he commands his space. But that being said, I would like to see a little bit more with him because I really enjoy what the actor is doing with Jimmy Akimbola. What he's doing with the character is really great with the limited amount of screen time that he gets per episode. He is memorable. You remember his scenes. So now I want a Jeffrey-centered episode, or where Jeffrey takes like center stage for at least half the episode, handling what he needs to handle. Because all we do is hear the orders from Phil or see them whispering, and then he goes off and does his thing. He did have that interaction with that guy with the tattoo on his neck about Rashad, but I want to see more. So hopefully all the seeds they're laying here lead us to a thing where Jeffrey kind of has to come clean about everything, because he feels like his fixer, and even the chief of police there calls him his muscle. So clearly people know who Jeffrey is. And so he's like the Black Ray Donovan for the situation, for those of you who've seen Ray Donovan handling the situation. So it's just an interesting choice, and I like it, but I want to see a little more,
I agree. I want to see more too. I'm so nosy. I mean, we got to know that he had something to do with Rashad, but he's just such a great actor, and everyone's loving his whole role in this show. So it's like, hopefully there's going to be more to him in upcoming episodes. So we have Carlton, Lisa, and Will really, really having this triangle of emotion in this episode. It's coming from all different directions. So we start out when, we're seeing Carlton and Lisa, basically, Lisa comes in upset because she already knows, she's upset over the memorial. And then, she's upset because Will isn't giving her any attention. And so they're connecting. And then, Will's looking at them connect. And then, Lisa and Will have a moment of, just kind of connecting on, what's going on. And then Carlton just completely loses it down the deep end into actually using drugs in this episode. But you should be a relationship counselor, John, because from the last episode, you were just so insightful. You were like, well, this is how men think. You're really breaking it down. You need to really sit in on some sessions, because I feel you could really do some help. Absolutely. It was like a light bulb opening when you were like, well, this is how men think, and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, you nailed it on this one. So they're doing more of that.
Yeah.
They're getting it wrong. So
Right,
love to know
right.
your thoughts on that.
Oh, I loved this section of the show. Really, I mean, because I love that they're challenging you. Look, Carlton has not been an easy guy to like for 5 episodes, but we finally get the dam breaking, the pressure, the frustration, the anger at himself, the self-destructive impulses, the anxiety, all of it he's a tightly wound package. And there's something about his physicality, like casting him was Ollie casting him is such a genius decision, because there's something about his physicality that he kind of, and I wonder if it's a conscious decision by him as an actor. You can tell that with every movement there's a restrained ferocity as he walks, as he moves, as he does the things that he does. So the explosion here is just the release of it all, and he breaks down. Why? Because he doesn't have actual friends. He doesn't have an actual connection to someone who really, I mean, his family cares about him, but they always think, oh, he's fine, because he radiates that thing that I don't need anybody. But the fact is, we all need somebody, and we all, whether it's family or friends, whatever it is, a dog, a pet, whatever, we all need somebody to kind of like connect with. It's the natural human instinct. It's born in us from a subconscious place, a primal place. And you see in that moment, he sees Will with Lisa, and what we think is going to happen is Carlton's going to go and out Will and do all this kind of stuff, but Trey's already done that. So what can Carlton do that Trey hasn't already done? So the show brilliantly goes in the other direction by having this breakdown with Carlton, and such an incredible acting job, Ollie, in this scene. You believe it, you feel empathy for him, and Will grows himself by understanding, hey, I've been judging this guy because he's been giving me guff, but here's me opening my my knowledge a little bit, or opening my mind a little bit, to create space to accept all the pressure this guy is on, sit down on the ground floor with him so we're level, and put my arm around him, tell him that I got him, because probably nobody's done that who is at his age, right? I'm sure his parents have done that, but nobody at his age has done that. And Carlton clearly has desperately needed some connection with somebody who understands what a black man goes through in the white world, what a young guy goes through trying to build himself in the world, and all of these things. And Will is a natural connection there, family-wise and also friend-wise. And I'm so happy we had this moment. And of course, later with Lisa and him, when he sees Lisa with Will, I don't see necessarily an anger there. I see more a growing acceptance of the situation. And hopefully from here, Carlton takes the steps to grow as the season goes on as well, and becomes a good friend to Will.
Yeah, definitely. Well said. And, I was hoping that, Carlton remembers what happened, because he was,
yeah,
using at the time.
Right.
So I really hope that he gets something out of that interaction with Will, because that was really a deep moment. And, while Will is having these growing pains and maybe doing, acting emotional in some scenes, he definitely brings people together. He's helping Uncle Phil, and, he's very connected with Lisa, and, at times he messes up, but overall he's, definitely showing up for her.
Yeah.
Steps in to help with the poem that she reads at the memorial. Yeah. So you just see, the whole duality of Will being this young person, but then being, just a real support to the family. And also the family is really accepting and bringing him in as well. Something Lisa said to Will during these conversations, she said something like, Carlton, he's kind of taking advantage of her vulnerability and kind of using that to get closer to her. Right. And that's, kind of what you mentioned in the last episode, that these guys are coming at her at the wrong time. This is such a vulnerable time for her, losing her mom and having to, relive this. And then she has this social anxiety herself with her dad. He doesn't seem to be too much of a support at all. So, we'll kind of get into that a little bit later too, with Angela, this new wife of Fred, and how Vivian reacts to that. But yeah, well, we can actually just jump right into Angela. Why hold back? But let me show a visual of Fred with his new wife, pregnant wife, Angela.
Yeah.
And we learned that, basically, Angela's a bit much. I mean, she's bragging to Will about a Palm Springs vacation,
Yeah.
which makes no sense to me as a young person. And, she outs herself, and Aunt Viv is like, oh, wasn't that vacation while Gail was still alive? So there's this big infidelity donut that is dropped out, and Vivian actually kind of snaps Angela into place when she was like insisting on speaking at the memorial. So there's this Lisa is having to endure all of this. She's just really, I'm just wondering if she's going to have a moment of even more of a breakdown, because these are some serious issues. I mean, the first person she hugs after her poem for her mom is Aunt Vivian.
Yeah.
And, not her father. Her father's just like, where's Carlton? So what did you think of that whole dynamic?
This is a lot to unpack here. I think Simone Joy Jones is doing a fantastic job with Lisa. She radiates such a want to be around her energy, want to get to know more, want to see her more on the show energy. Whenever she shows up, the interactions she has with Will, there's such a genuine authenticness in their interactions, and then with Carlton as well. And it's so funny. I thought we were going to have more of a division between them when we started this new episode, but because of what happened last episode when he tried to kiss her. But clearly, she's like, well, she said what she needed to say. They're still going to do the poem. The thing for her mother is more important than any issues she might have with Carlton. So she's still willing to kind of swallow that a little bit and go forward and do what needs to be done here. But then we see this division with her dad. And here's where a little bit of my criticism comes in with the show. And there's I think you need to build Fred up a little bit more. I mean, if we're going to see him as an antagonist, we need to see some scenes with it's my friend Joe, and I'm not just stumping for him because I love Joe, but Joe's a good damn actor, so give him some scenes because I also think it helps the show, Nikki, for us to have a more nuanced, layered, interesting antagonist. Carlton was a nice, layered, interesting antagonist for Will initially. Now it seems maybe the dam is breaking a little bit. Now let's look at the other side here. If you're going to create a person who's going up against Phil, we got to have a layered, complex antagonist so that we can dial in more into this relationship and see the differences here. And, I can't speak to this too much because, I'm not black, but a black man moving on from a black woman to marry a white woman, and then a white woman having that little bit of privilege here, thinking that she can speak at this thing because she wants to use it to connect with Lisa. And then earlier when Lisa's talking about her life and her career and she wants to go to college at Howard, and the girls are kind of, or the ladies, sorry, are pitching their sorority, all of a sudden the baby kicks. It just seemed like she's the kind of person who wants the attention, or needs the attention. And will take it wherever she can get it, and hates it when Lisa's getting it. Maybe she feels jealousy, and this happens. The new stepmom coming in, jealous of the daughter of the previous wife. There's jealousy there for the attention of the male in those relationships. That does happen. It doesn't always happen, but it does happen. So this show is opening the door to these interesting dynamics that will play itself out. I just think you have to do more to give, I think it's Fred Wilkes' name, to give a little more nuance and levels to him so that we can get to know him more too. Because then you have black man versus black man with white woman, black woman, black woman. What are those arguments going to be about? And then are things that Lisa knows about her dad that she tells Will or maybe tells Carlton, is Phil going to use those in the campaign, or is Jeffrey? So there's a lot here that I love that was opened up overall here, Nikki.
Yeah, I definitely felt a little bit of when Aunt Viv kind of snapped at her, she kind of already whispered to Ashley about Carlton. So they were already having a moment of like, where Carlton is, he's sleeping. And Vivian looked really concerned that she knew that he may be having some type of episode or something. I don't know how deep that look kind of went. But yeah, in regards to race, I really didn't feel, that was an issue. However, when it comes to privilege and her privilege of wanting to speak and run the show, that's when the race came into play. You're absolutely right on that. And then, Angela basically, if she, the facts are true, she was having an affair with a married man. And so she's got this real, closet full of, skeleton bones, and she's got a lot to try to prove. But then it also says a lot about her privilege in thinking that she can just do these things and, step over people's marriage and, have this relationship and get pregnant. And then, not really even care about the damage that has been done. It's just about, no, I want to connect with Lisa. It's like, well, you're not thinking about what you did.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter. So that was really interesting. And then, from a political standpoint, Fred is running for office.
Yeah.
That's the big reveal. And, as a police chief running for district attorney, I mean, you've done this political podcast before.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that whole dynamic? And, does this give Fred the upper hand? He says, to Uncle Phil, your connections won't help you now.
Yeah, clearly Fred is willing to play dirty. And we see that. There aren't many instances in big cities where a chief of police became the mayor. So yeah, that's right. It was what he was running for, right? Mayor. So there have not been many instances like that. So I find that to be an interesting twist here to throw in. And he's getting in late in the race. So how much support does he actually have? That'll be interesting to see if they just kind of accelerate his campaign to have a lot of support. Because who was out there that was challenging Phil that was actually cutting into his lead, and there were some arguments about that, I think, in the first couple episodes. So seeing him jump into this position is an interesting thing, and certainly he'll have the police force behind him in going for that position. So how much will that affect Phil as he works his campaign, and how many of these realities will he have to face? So of not having this more, losing the LA Times support, losing these other support. I mean, this could be an interesting place for Phil to kind of come to terms with. So where is he going to be pushed? And already, what I see interesting too, Nikki, is they're laying the groundwork a little bit. Because you had Viv ask him about his politics and stuff, and he's like, oh, it's no big deal. I'm handling it. It's no big deal. He's not opening up to her about this stuff. And so we see Michael Ealy and the things he's doing, and we saw what happened with them a little bit. So are they laying the groundwork a little bit that Phil is going to start to be more obsessed with the campaign as it's taking more of his time to regain his support, to regain his footing and his grounding? And is that going to take him away from Viv? Is that going to cause issues with Viv? So I like that they set this up in a way that's going to be interesting to see how Phil navigates this as well.
Yeah, that is an interesting point. If this is going to cause any rocks in their relationship with all.
You said it was out of the blue last episode, and now that maybe they're laying the groundwork for it possibly happening.
And since we're talking about kind of things being on the rocks, I'll show this visual of
there we go.
Phil and the steamy Reed talking with Aunt Viv. Sorry, I'm so dramatic when it comes to that scene. But so Reed's just snooping around the house. He, sees this artwork and he challenges Aunt Viv to put this on, up for auction. And if it sells for more than 15K or 15K, he'll show her work at his gallery. Yeah. Very intimate moment. And Uncle Phil is catching all of this at the wrong time and kind of swoops in and, gives Vivian a really steamy kiss to let Reed know, hands off. So what did you think of this scene?
You can go back to this is just a male instinctive thing, man. I'm going to kiss my woman really hard to show you that this is my woman. It's very primal stuff, man. And that's what happens. Dudes do that. And it's the way they played it out worked so well here. And clearly, but I mean, I think the thing that's like, yeah, sure, there's the kiss, but the thing to take away is that Phil didn't know Viv was painting. So why was she hiding that from him? That's an interesting thing that they might be exploring as well down the road. So certainly there's probably going to be some kind of blow up between them where she says in a way that she kind of blames him for not letting her paint for 15 years or not feeling inspired to paint. And so there's clearly some hidden feelings of animosity between them that will come out down the road, and they're laying the groundwork for it for sure. But then again, Phil pays the $20,000 so that she can put that painting out. Even though they had the 15,000, he goes to the 20 to show his support for her. So he's a good man. He does care about her. He loves her.
Yeah.
But we'll see how this flirtation and Phil's little nervousness, about it, plays itself out, especially with Jeffrey. Is Jeffrey going to do something extreme in a certain moment that will cause some division between Phil and Viv down the road? Who knows? So I like it that they're setting up these dynamics very strongly with everybody involved in this equation.
Yeah, and we talked about Vivian's character in the last review we did, and how she's not the type that would fall for any type of interruption to her marriage. Even, it doesn't matter how good looking Reed is. Yeah, she's playing this really strong woman, and just how she reacted to Angela with Fred kind of lets you know where she stands on morality. And she seems to be on guard with Reed, but she's again focused on her art, but maybe he's not so much.
Yeah.
There could be something behind his intentions. So, she said, "Why are you coming at me so hard?" Is he really passionate about her art or something else? So we'll see how that plays out. Jeffrey might have to get involved in that one. Oh, I think that, that was mentioned as well.
Yeah.
He said to kind of investigate this Reed, Broderick, I think his last name or something like that. So we learned a bit more about Ashley and her friends in the game room at this charity event. She kind of is really let down. This is kind of like her first crush, and Lucia kind of divulges that she actually finds Will attractive. And Lucia actually thought that Ashley liked the other young guy there, Mario. So this was really, really an emotional scene. This is a really young girl at 12, kind of putting herself out there to say, yes, I'm gay, and you're not really having a true definition for it, but that's already a vulnerability. And then you have a crush on top of that. And then the crush not only doesn't like you, but also is not like you.
Yeah.
You don't believe she is, because she's obviously attracted to Will. You don't know yet. There's so many different details to that, but really vulnerable, and just, it just makes you think of that age. And, so what did you think of that?
No, I loved it. Yeah, heartbreak at that age. It doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is or how you identify. Heartbreak is heartbreak. That's the one universal thing we all experience at young age at some point. Caring for somebody and them not liking you back. That's the game. And so I like that the show has walked into that. Are they putting a big spotlight on it? No, but they're doing it in a way that makes you connect with Ashley, because she's doing such an incredible job with this character. And then seeing what she's going through in the interactions, the awkward interactions in the game room. I mean, she sends Mario out to get him soda. So she clearly, she's making the situation present itself so that she can tell her truth to Lucia. But in the end, Lucia reveals that she's got a thing for Will. Once again, Will coming in and just exploding everything. And so she's got to deal with that. But it leads to a very nice interaction here between Hillary and Ashley, and her giving her some good older sisterly advice. She doesn't just stroke her hair and say, like, oh, you'll find someone else. It's more a matter of like, hey, this is life, and it's tough. It sucks, but you got to go through this. And look, you had the guts and you had the strength to tell me about it. And then she says, do you want to tell someone else about it? And I don't know what she meant by that. I thought, oh my God, is she going to put her on a TikTok, or is she trying to say, well, do you want to tell Viv about it? I don't know who she meant in that moment, but it was an interesting thing to say. And so I wonder what that is leading to as Ashley becomes more empowered in her feelings about who she is as a woman and her orientation,
Yeah, that is really, really interesting that you picked up on that. I initially thought the parents, but she would have said that, probably mom or dad. She said something else. So that is a great pickup to think that she may have wanted her to tell an audience.
Yeah.
Interesting. But yeah, overall, Hillary has been super, super supportive, even with her busy schedule. She still makes time for Ashley all the time and is just super supportive. So I really love that aspect of family, just supporting one another and supporting, sometimes the younger kids get overlooked and their problems are just kind of, minuscule. They're kids,
Right.
but really taking the time to listen and hear her. So yeah, and I guess Uncle Phil and Carlton have a moment towards
Mm.
the end, where Uncle Phil's kind of missing what's going on. He just kind of is he making an excuse, or do you feel he knows, or he just kind of seems to be missing the whole issue that Carlton's having, and Carlton just kind of runs with it.
Yeah, it's a good question you ask. I don't know. I don't know if I have enough information yet to know which way he's leaning. Like, is he being influenced by the fact that he's got this race that is now going to start to heat up with the pressure of the chief of police now going into the race against him? So, is he trying to, kind of subconsciously manipulate the perception of the narrative so it doesn't come off that he's using drugs? It's more that he's got anxiety issues and that's what he's dealing with, or is he reading it or for what it is, or is he misreading it for what it is because he doesn't know and he just trusts Carlton? And dads sometimes don't want to see it because they don't want to believe their kids could do those kinds of things or are lost in a little bit of a substance abuse situation because they think it kind of reflects on their parenting, when in fact that's 9 times out of 10 that isn't the truth. It's just a matter of certain pressures, certain situations, and people turn to certain things, making their own decisions at a young age. And so this is something that I hope we find out what's going on here with Phil's perception of it. But you bring up an excellent point. Is he missing it on purpose, or is he really missing it? So it's a valid one. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. And also, Will and Vivian have kind of a heart to heart, and the conversation goes back to Trey, where she's saying that sometimes, anger and all of this is misdirected, and she feels that Trey just needs some time to calm down and to think about reconnecting. Their friendship goes back so far. So, do you think there's hope for Trey and Will? I mean, he really did some damage on social media mocking him. And that right there is another anxiety, mental health issue of, he's looking like a clown to all of his friends. His whole, his whole image is tarnished.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I thought they ended on better terms when he got in the car and he left, right? He was still mad at him, but it seemed like they ended in better terms. So for him to go back and start and say that's post that snake thing and whatever, then to me, is that him trying to maintain his credibility in the situation that he's in? So he goes after Will. He uses going after Will as a way to kind of reclaim his strength. Rashad's gone now. He's got to be there without Will. And maybe there's a little bit of trying to show that he's still a tough guy without Will. He doesn't need Will. Maybe this is his way of doing that and showing off to people, because no matter what level you are in the strata of life, there is still that pressure to seem like, you're the toughest person in the room, or you're the biggest person in the room, or you're the smartest person in the room, no matter what room you're in. So I wonder if that was the drive here. And now Will is in the high ground in this situation. So I wonder if Trey has to go and ask for forgiveness down the road, and maybe that will come up as we go. And we'll see. I mean, we haven't seen Jazz come back in a bit. So we know the Jazz kind of, is a version of that, but not really. So it's just interesting how they're playing the Jazz character is kind of showing up every once in a while. And I wonder if Jazz starts to become, as maybe Trey moves on or moves out of the picture, Jazz starts to become more and more of Will's friend here as we go along with Carlton, obviously. But I wonder if that starts to be the change, and we go into season 2 with those two very much friends, as opposed to Trey and Will. We shall see.
We will see. And we end on love again with Will and Lisa, sharing this intimate kiss and just kind of, Will just explains his feelings. So, that was really nice to see. I believe Carlton was overlooking this as well.
Yes, he
But
was.
he didn't seem to go into a rage. So I don't believe so. So maybe he is kind of coming into acceptance of, Lisa's no longer his.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of that?
Here's a big life lesson for anybody who's watching right now, ladies and gentlemen. If it's not the right person for you, I know it hurts. It breaks your heart. You're so mad. You want to get that person back. But take it from a guy who's been through this experience. Sometimes it's not the right person for you because the right person for you is coming. So in a way, celebrate the end of the relationships that are not the right person for you because it's moving you closer to the right person for you. And when that person comes along, trust me, you're not going to think about those old relationships anymore. And you'll thank God that they didn't work out because you found your person. So I hope, and this is much older, trust me, when I was in my 20s, I didn't want to hear any of that, but I'm trying to throw some wisdom out there. I hope we're seeing Carlton accept that. And by accepting that, it opens the door for a new relationship for Carlton down the road. And who knows who that could be, but that could be interesting to see him get into a relationship in season 2 and see where that goes. Maybe the Lisa thing still hangs around, obviously, because he really does care for her, but hopefully down the road, this is the beginning of growth for the Carlton character, emotional growth and maturity and acceptance of situations that makes him stronger as a person. And we now cheer for Carlton to find someone who could be at his level and be a good partner for him. So I hope that's what's going. But the Lisa-Will thing, Nikki, there's so much natural chemistry between those two. I mean, it's incredible the acting that both of them are doing in these scenes. They're just so naturally connected that it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like pushed onto the storyline. It's just there, and it's great to see, and it makes you smile when you're watching it coming up. Because I don't know about you, but like Young Love, I remember Young Love, and seeing it kind of bloom again in certain situations on these shows or movies is nice to see. So I dig it. I hope this stays what it is,
Yeah, it was very heartwarming. But I'm waiting for your relationship book to hit the market. I mean, Dr. Rocha, because you were just spilling so much great advice for people. But no, thank you for that. That's really, really wonderful. So, so that's all the time we have for today. It was a pleasure chatting with you. So everyone, please, again, like and subscribe and leave some feedback in the comments. Let us know what you thought of our review as well as the series. And tune in next week and we'll be dishing on future episodes. And John, where can everyone find you?
Oh, yeah. You can always find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and The Outlaw Nation on Twitch, where I'll be starting my relationship show now. No, I'm just joking. And my Outlaw Nation outlet, that is youtube.com/John Rocha Says. Go and find all the stuff I'm doing there in the world of entertainment.
Nice. And everyone, you can find me at Glitter Magazine anywhere on social, as well as Nikki Fowler 28. And it was a pleasure, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.